Hey guys, thanks for joining us here on SEO Cheat Guides. Today I have Terry Samuels from Saltera Web Services. He's been in the business since 2011, has built up a substantial business in the digital marketing environment, has a family business like I mentioned, his wife, 2 daughters, and son working with him in this business, and he is going to share his journey with us, hopefully drop a lot of tips and tricks that we could put to use in our business. Terry, thanks a lot for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, Stuart. It's a pleasure.
All right, great. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you managed to get into digital marketing, and we'll go from there.
About 2010, after we got our butts literally kicked in the real estate market, I had shoulder surgery, and right after I just basically lost my real estate company. And during that time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just knew I couldn't work for somebody else. So I had a prior background of being a web developer when I worked for a large corporation, so I figured I'd go back into that again. And so that's what I did. I went back into the web design part of it somewhere around end of 2010, 2011.
Okay. And so you went back in. What was your approach in terms of, you had that background of experience, obviously, doing some of the technical work. How'd you go out and find clients?
I actually started on the yellow pages. I went to yp.com and I started searching I wanted to start helping churches and do things around that church, charities, and foundation area. And so I basically sent 30 emails a day to anybody that I could find that had a website and an email address, and just sent them a little snippet. Back then, of course, almost every website was bad, so it wasn't hard to find. It wasn't hard to find people that needed your services. And the first websites I did for free because I didn't have anything to show, no portfolio. I spent about 2 months on my own website because I had to relearn Dreamweaver again. This was before open source. So, and that's basically how I got started. I just started sending 30 emails a day. And once I got a couple churches, then I started getting a couple businesses. And then I was able to start charging people some money and just kind of took off from there.
Nice. So, obviously your first tidbit of knowledge there, 30 emails a day, probably still work today. What were some of the challenges when you were first getting in? A lot of people that are watching are probably earlier on in their journey, and just trying to relate some of the challenges you would have faced even when you were starting it back in 2011.
It's just don't get frustrated, I was bound and determined to do this because I really didn't want to go work for somebody else. Elizabeth, my wife, had taken a job with Starbucks, and mainly for insurance purposes was the reason. And so when I sat down to do this, I really didn't know what else I was going to do or even the goal that I had set out to go for. But once it started coming in and people were actually starting to pay me, some pretty decent money. It wasn't anything that, I obviously didn't know how much to charge people. So I struggled with that at the beginning, still do today. But the biggest thing is I just don't get frustrated, don't give up, just keep going. If you're serious about doing it, I started posting on Craigslist a couple months after I started. There's all kinds of ways that I was able to go out and find little snippets of businesses, and it just, like I said, it just grew from there. I was not going to give up.
Okay, so as you started to grow, you started to gain some success. The wife's working at Starbucks. At what point did you hire on your first employee that you brought in?
Actually, it was my wife, Elizabeth. About 5 months after we started, I found out real quick that I really sucked at design. I didn't have an eye for it. I wasn't good at graphics. I was the real software developer guy. I loved code. So I needed help there, and I didn't know what else to do. I knew she had a little bit of background in art and doing some stuff, and so she came on board and started doing our logos and our banner ads and our sliders and everything that we started doing. So yeah, she was my first so-called employee, and she left Starbucks. We made enough money to start buying insurance again, which was the whole goal. And so she came on board and just started working with me side by side, and then started learning actually how to do the web design side. So, and it was excruciating not working with her. Elizabeth and I have been self-employed for 15 years together. So,
okay.
Just the 5 months that she was apart, from working away from us. It just, the dynamic wasn't there. She's my rock. She keeps me steady. She keeps me focused. And that's the great thing about, a family business, in my opinion.
Awesome. So, I mean, because I know that there's more kids now into play, so tell us the kind of progression. So 5 months, she joins you. And at that point, where would you have been in terms of a run rate on a monthly basis, revenue-wise, to have made that jump?
Well, we didn't have it. We weren't doing SEO. I got forced into SEO about 5 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay.
So we really didn't have any monthly revenue, except people were paying us, $50 a month to maintain a website or something. But, so it was always constantly outgoing, finding new work, finding sales, working the referral game. But yeah, it's and then about it was just Elizabeth and I for a good 2.5 years, and we started looking around. That was about the time that I got convinced from one of my developers that was then working with us to look at WordPress and get moved into WordPress, and that was a big jump for us. We went from, and it was kind of forced to where it would take me 45 to 60 days to do a hard-coded HTML CSS site, and WordPress comes along and you can pump one out in a week. But it was a tough game. It was a tough road for us. So about that same time, we hired my son, and my son's whole goal in life is to, the first thing I learned in SEO was watch your links, because at that time you were able to buy links or just, buy $5,000 worth of links, and you could rank pretty much anywhere you wanted to go, but so could everybody else. So, and so that's the biggest. That's when Skylar came on board, and then my daughter came on board. She actually worked for Facebook in the business development section for 1.5 years. So cool. She got frustrated with Facebook, and at that time we weren't doing any social media, and so I said, "Hey, come on over, work with us." So now we add that social media division. So that's kind of the progression. It just, I'm always looking to see how we can do other things for other people, and so that's kind of like my driving factor even today. I always tell people, I explain to them that you never want to refer somebody else to do something that you could perfectly well do yourself. Okay. And, one of that thing is, like, if you just do SEO, you better learn web design, because you're going to get a web design task or a web design problem that your client's going to have, and they're going to hire somebody like me to fix it, and I'm going to take the SEO. So, yeah. Kind of just go, think about your business as an agency from the beginning. If you don't do it, find somebody that does, mark it up, and sell it as an offering.
Gotcha.
But don't just tell somebody, no, I'm sorry, I don't do web design. Well, you should at some point.
Well, that's a nice segue. So right now, do you focus on helping certain types of businesses, or do you focus on certain geographies? Like, are you niche down, or are you geography based, or just who's ever got a crisp bill in their hand?
I think more of, I stay away from industries more than I would, to have a list of people that I accept. I have a better list of people that I avoid. Obviously in the adult gaming range, I avoid. Yep. I don't do realtors. I still don't do a lot of lawyers. There's some certain segments when you start doing this business that, your time becomes very valuable. And so we don't put up with a lot of drama. And one of the reasons I say that is because it's, if you get a client that just sucks the time out of you, you'll find out real quick that you're not able to focus your time equally on other clients. And so we really have to be very particular, especially when you're small and in a growth mode. You really have to be careful who you take on and the reason you're taking them on. Sure. In my opinion. And the people that are hard to work with, you're not going to change them. They're going to always be hard to work with. We've all got clients that when they're having a bad day, they call the first person that answers the phone. And that's typically me. And 99% of the time, it really doesn't have anything to do with anything that I'm doing. But, it's just, you need to expect and just be ready that, once you start taking people's money, you need to set boundaries on what that means. 9, 10 o'clock phone calls at night. You really have to start setting some boundaries on your clients just to make sure that you can have another life. And as you do this more often, you're really going to find out, it's really not that bad to fire somebody. And And I'm not talking employees, I'm talking clients. Clients, they need me as much as I need them. And, I go in there with that attitude. I go in there more of a partnership with our clients. And, but if they become an issue and if they start to do stuff that is affecting my work, then yeah, I'm not going to continue to take their money. That's just me. So
interesting. So on that, when you're setting that expectation, because I think this is a problem that is systemic in the industry, I think especially at the lower end of digital marketing, there are a lot of people who take a lot of abuse. So in terms of setting these expectations with new customers coming in, is there something you do in terms of setting that timeline that you're willing to answer phone calls between this time and this time, or kind of what the scope of work? Because another thing we hear a lot about is like, I agree to do, this, and this for this price, and then it ends up being, 5x the work with that price tag staying where it is. How do you kind of set those expectations with your clients now?
Well, the biggest thing is, on the onboarding meeting, we really get down, depending on what client it is it a web design, SEO, is it both? And we really like to make sure that the scope of work is heavily defined. I mean, it's you really need to be careful. We do a lot of conversions, so we'll do a lot of Weebly, Wix, Squarespace conversions into WordPress, and when you're dealing with different types of things, you need to make sure that all bases are covered. A lot of these third-party sites, they don't own the images or the content, so you have to make sure that everybody's educated to know that you have to provide the content, and you have X amount of days to be able to do that to reach the time frame. And where we all get stuck on the web design side is, we get paid our 50% and we get going, rocking and rolling, and then we have the site waiting 3 or 4 or 5 months waiting on the client. We always run into that, and we've even started charging people for the delays. Just because of the fact that when they do finally give you the stuff that you've been waiting for, now they expect to be on top of the pile, and it typically doesn't work that way. So we make sure that all that's laid out on the table from the very beginning. On the SEO side, we try to make sure and educate our clients of the positives and the negatives of SEO. The first thing I explain to our clients is we don't control anything. We don't control Google. We don't control the search engines. We don't control algorithm updates. Sure. All we can do is try to react the smartest way possible after investigation in order to fix whatever happened and make it better. But if you educate your clients at the ups and downs of SEO and the positives of it, the great things of it, then I think you have more of a partnership type relationship. So you don't get into negative expectations. My first SEO client, I actually guaranteed, and I will never do that again. Okay. I lost a lot of money, and a lot of it was because my contract was crap. A lot of it was because that I even did guarantee. I thought that once I got them to the top that they would stay there, and of course they didn't. And up until about a year and a half ago, I didn't even know what PBNs and aggressive linking and guest posting was. I was doing everything through good solid on page. I was doing things through directory submissions, social signals, doing all the more, there's no such thing as white hat, but doing all the stuff to try to improve the rankings without actually spending more money on other things that I couldn't control about the project. And so that's the biggest thing on the SEO side. We really try to make sure that the client's very aware of what happens with it. We created our own reporting system on our own agency site, so people can go there 24/7, look at the reports, traffic, rankings. We try to teach people that any type of reporting system is not going to be that accurate. Right. And if you really want to know where you're at, type it into Google, but don't do it all the time, obviously.
Sure.
So that's the biggest thing. I think educating the clients, no matter what the terms of service are, no matter what the project scope is, you really need to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because it can come back and bite you very hard, especially when you're starting out. We started with no money. I didn't have any capital. I didn't have any money in savings to go throw at a business. So I was really careful with how I treaded the water and then obviously until my first mistake with the SEO with that guarantee. But, but nowadays it's still the same way. We'd like to make sure that our clients know what's expected from both sides of the fence.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I definitely think that onboarding conversation needs to happen, and something that's not talked about enough in the industry, at least when people are starting out.
Exactly.
So let's flip gears here. So how do you currently find new business? You're obviously growing your business. You're active online. I see you all the time. So how are you currently bringing in new clients now that you've been in the business going on, 6-7 years?
Organic rankings obviously going to be the biggest thing for us. I think if you're an agency or if you're even in the business, that organic ranking is the way to close clients. Okay. A lot of people say, you don't get much traffic if you rank, number one for Denver SEO. Well, that might be true, but if you rank number one for SEO and somebody calls you about SEO, it's pretty easy to close them on if it works or not. Now you just need to get over the hurdle of how much is it going to cost. So, and that's the biggest thing, is just, making sure that everybody's on the same page. So. Okay.
Great.
Sorry.
So that's how you get your SEO clients, but it's the same thing, you'd be ranking for web design if you were going after web design clients in a city?
Exactly. Web design, for the organic rankings. We are starting to do a lot more cold emailing again, because I do think it is such an important part of onboarding clients. But again, you've got to be ready for some of the people and do your work and investigate who the company is. Don't just go out there and start blind cold emailing companies and thinking that you're going to get a $10,000 a month client. So and then there's Craigslist. We still play with Craigslist. I've always been a Craigslist supporter, and it's you never know. I mean, I've gotten some of my best clients from Craigslist, and then we also, some people have seen on Facebook, is the back window of my Nissan Pathfinder. I get a lot of business from the back window of our Pathfinder.
What do you got on the back window?
Just affordable web services, our phone number, a little bit. I think we have hosting, internet marketing, and web design on the back. We're getting ready to change it up. And then our website. What cost me $150 3.5 years ago when I first started doing it, we've made well over $250,000 because of that back window of that truck. And it's it's amazing. Matter of fact, when we bought this truck, we actually went out with the measurement of the back window to see how much marketing space we had. That's one of the reasons why we chose the Pathfinder, because it had the best back window. And so it's
Nissan,
but yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite things. What's that?
Nissan. We got to send this out to Nissan. This is like a whole untapped market for them.
Yep, they got the best back window to market with.
Cool. That's interesting. I've never heard that. So that's a neat little hack that is non-digital to get digital clients.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. When you post this to your thing, I'll put my picture in my back window up there so people can see it. But yeah, it's a great idea, and I've had people tell me, well, my car is a $100,000 car. I said, that's great. Why don't you make it a tax write-off? I mean, it's there's simple ways to do stuff. And we went to California last summer, and I got 2 leads from California on our vacation. So wherever we're driving that thing, it's marketing for us. So
nice. That's a good call for sure. So I'm going to get you to do your consulting bit here and tell you, all right, so let's say people are just starting out. They've learned a skill, be it SEO, Facebook ads, content, social media marketing. What would be some of the suggestions you would have for newbies who aren't necessarily going to rank in SEO immediately? It's a longer term play. What are some other things that they can do? I mean, you've just given us a couple in terms of maybe cold email or definitely converting the car into a sign. What else would you
totally.
suggest?
And then, there's always cold calling. I'm not a real good person to do that type of business, but cold calling's huge. I mean, I even had at one time, I hired a kid to go into these strip malls and I made a flyer with a business card, and I just had him drop off flyers and business cards, and we got a couple that way. Every time there's a fishbowl, drop your card in there. I mean, always be marketing yourself, always be marketing your company. And, and like I said, if you don't do something that they're asking for, fake it and find somebody that does it, mark it up, and sell it. So, in my opinion, I think web design or websites is the easiest thing to sell in this business. And that can obviously lead to other things. But, people that don't do websites, I would encourage you to get with a company that does, white label them, sell them as a product. It's very hard to sell SEO to somebody that either has a very antiquated website, a very old website, a website that was built on GoDaddy in 2012. You're not going to be doing much ranking with those. So, I think the first step should be, let's get you a website that you can be proud of, so we can convert people into sales. Because that's my job, or any of our jobs in this business, is conversion. So, getting somebody on the first page is part of the challenge. Now you need to get people to click it and call or email. So, and that is your job. I had one SEO tell me that's not his job. His job is just to rank. And you know what? If that's your attitude coming into this, you need to get out. So, you need to work on conversion. You need to make sure that your clients' phones are ringing, their emails are coming in, they're getting leads. So, otherwise, what's the point? And so that's the biggest thing that, like I said, it's just, there's lots of ways out there. Craigslist, promote yourself, go out and get a t-shirt made and go walk around the home and garden show. There's lots of ways to go out and do some stuff, but, don't ever think you have nothing to do. If you own a business, you always have something to do. So
nice. All right. So let's travel back in time then, I guess. And what 3 pieces of advice do you wish you would have got back in 2011 that would have made your journey a little less bumpy?
Create SOPs from the beginning.
Cheers. I like that one.
Yeah, it is so important. We are now just going back and creating SOPs that we should have done, 6-7 years ago. So, SOPs, you've got to create them. You've got to stick to them. They've got to be a moving target, so they've got to be updated. But I tell my staff now that the SOPs have to be ready to fill in if something happens to me.
Right. And
that's the whole purpose of them. So I don't want anybody to be confused by what they do when or if something happens, or, if they have questions, they don't have to bother me on my cruise or whatever. I want them to know everything they need to know about every single part of the business. And it all starts from SOPs. And it's so much easier to start at the beginning when you don't have much. Going back now, we're creating almost 20 different SOPs now. And so it would have been so much nicer to just do one for web design, and then a couple years later do one for, different aspects of search. And, but yeah, they're very important. I love when people push SOPs. You have to do it. Probably the biggest thing that I try to tell new businesses is you don't control anything. You don't ever rely every single day that you're still going to bring in the same amount of income, or that the person's happy today and he's going to automatically be happy, 4 months from now. So don't ever take anything for granted, and then don't panic, especially on the search side. Just don't panic. Don't start going and all of a sudden running and gunning and changing things on your website because something happened. And, unless you get a penalty, which Google doesn't do much anymore except for schema. But the biggest thing is just don't panic. Like I said, our job is to just try to guess what Google's going to do next. And 90% of the time we fail. But what we've seen, especially in our business, is what goes down will typically come back. And like I said, unless it's a penalty. So, I had a guy call me over the weekend. He's, an SEO guy. I do a lot of white label work. And, he panicked because 2 of his keywords, got dumped. And it had only been like 2 days, and here we are 4 days after he called me, and everything's back again. So, it's not good to go out. Yeah, the Google, and it happens too. You go in and, you just add a simple paragraph to a page. You go in and you change an H1 tag. You update your title or description. Guess what? You're going to drop. There's no other way to put that. We hope it doesn't, but then again, it typically will come back to the same or stronger. But yeah, just don't panic. And then, like I said, focus on conversions. It's all about getting your clients more leads. And when we take on a new SEO client, especially a brand new website, we'll throw some of that money into paid AdWords. We want his phone to start ringing as soon as possible. So I don't have to sit there and wait 2 or 3 or 4 months, whatever it takes, to get this person out of the sandbox so he can start ranking and getting leads in. I'd rather have him getting one a week that I'm paying for. It doesn't cost much money unless you're, an HVAC company in Phoenix. But you always try to get your clients leads. And if you're just focused on rankings and you're not really focused on the phone ringing or them receiving emails or whatever, then it's going to be a tough road for you. That's probably the 3 biggest things that I try to teach people.
Nice.
So,
okay. How do you currently divide your time? So how many people are on your team? Is it you, your wife, 2 daughters, and 1 son?
Yeah, and we have an operations manager, and then I have 2 developers and anywhere between 2 to 3 VAs at a time.
Okay.
VAs are tough for me. I have huge expectations, and I go through VAs pretty quickly.
Sure.
So one of my steadfast rules is for myself and my wife to spend 2 hours a day on our business every day. So whether that's on our websites, whether it's on our, payroll books, if it's in our accounting, whatever. I want, one of the things that I found out a couple of years ago is I went and didn't spend much time on our own business. And, we had to take a whole month and dig into taxes. So that's kind of the driving factor to make sure that we spend a little bit of time each day on our own company. And then the rest of the time, it just depends on what our project management system's telling us to do. So we have a support ticket systems that sometimes will drive that. Jenny's pretty good as far as dictating who does what and when and make sure things are done on time. Elizabeth and I are the QA type people. We make sure that we see everything that's done before the client does. And then the rest of the time I'm typically doing, anywhere from, I'm building a lot of tools out on the software development side. I try not to do too much of the web design stuff anymore. And I love doing on-page. On-page is probably my favorite thing in this business. And so we really try to spend and make sure that, not only is the client taken care of, but we're spending time with our agency, and we're just making sure that, we're still building and going out and doing things that we need to do on the sales side. So, like I said, we're just starting up the cold email system. So, in a month from now, my day will most likely change. So, but that's okay. We're ready for it. That's the biggest thing.
Nice. So how do you keep up to date? Who do you follow? What do you follow? Where do you read? Or are you more test yourself and see what's working in-house? Again, for the advice to people newer in the journey, what should they be following? What should they be reading? Stay up to date in this business.
Yeah, test everything. I mean, that's my biggest thing from the beginning. And I went out at the very beginning and I bought domains. I bought, about 10 or 12 different domains, some exact match, some, partial match, some brands. And those are my, still to this day, 5-6 years later, those are the ones that I test stuff with. And, I don't really mind. Well, I take that with a grain of salt. When a test goes bad and it's my own site, that's a lot easier to handle than obviously a money site or somebody that's paying for it. As far as following, I'm a sponge. I like learning. I like to see what everybody else is doing. The thing that's kind of frustrating for me is a lot of these good classes and courses are getting very expensive. It's the prices have just gone through the roof even compared to a year ago. And and a lot of that's because of how popular Facebook has gotten. I'm pretty quiet as far as what we do on Facebook, just because, I think Facebook is saturated with Google. I think Google's in these groups. I think they find these little snippets out. I don't know if they ever react to them, but it wasn't like this a year ago. So it's an interesting walk. But yeah, I'm a sponge. I like following Matt. LCT. I'm good friends with Simon. There's some. I've got a lot of friends in the industry that we really bounce a lot of stuff off to. I'm involved with a lot of private groups that again that we kind of test and and respond with our tests. So other people either don't have to test, or maybe they can see a different thing that we didn't see, and It is all about testing, though. It is all about learning. It's all about testing. My biggest advice to brand new SEOs is get really good at on-page. That's it. On-page, in my mind, is the most important thing in this industry. People will argue with me about links and blah, 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 but, if your website isn't crawlable, if you've got crappy on-page, I don't care what kind of links you get. So Rank Brain's a little bit smarter than the link wheel, so to speak, that we call it Google. But you just have to basically, get really good at whatever you want to do and stick with it and then learn as you go. So, there's some great Maps is on fire right now. I mean, Maps is the key. I really, it might not be this way 6 months from now, but yeah, learn Maps. Get in. You can charge somebody that doesn't even have a website map work, because you really don't need a website for Maps. Right. So, there's different aspects of this business. Just don't go out and hurt people. I'm with a group of about 6 of us, and we do a lot of cleaning up messes. And it's typically, I've got one I'm working on right now. The guy's got 1,600 links on a 5-month-old website.
Oh, wow.
And
because you put out so much good content, right? And everyone into it.
Exactly. Yeah, his whole 14 pages. It's just, and it's really sad because this guy paid like $6,000. It's just, we all hear these horror stories, but, and now I've got to charge this poor guy to even get him back to zero. So, if you don't know what you're doing, please don't hurt people, but go out and test them, but don't test them on your money sites. There's even people out there, contact me, I'll give you a site to test it on. I've got many. So, but just don't go out there and say, oh, I saw this on a Facebook group, I think I'll try it on my, Denver SEO site. It's just like, especially if you're being paid, don't go down that road. So Perfect. That's the biggest thing.
So let's end on a soft note here. So what are some hobbies outside of marketing that you enjoy spending your time with?
I like golf. I like fishing, hunting, doing all the typical, outdoor type stuff. I'm 52, so I don't do. Matter of fact, when I hurt my shoulder, I was playing with my kids, so I don't do basketball and the crazy stuff anymore like you do. So I just, I'm pretty laid back. When I shut down from work, I watch a lot of movies. I like to just kind of get away from my own little environment. But again, I do a lot of studying, read the Bible a lot, all that kind of good stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of my favorite things. I don't do enough of it, and I would love to golf more, but again, it's just it's a 5-hour deal, so you got to plan it. So
absolutely. So, you're easy to find online for sure. I see you on Facebook all the time, but if people want to reach out to you, where's the best place to send them?
Go to our agency site, salterrasite.com, SALTERRASITE.com, Salterra Site. That's our main agency site. And then just let me know how I can help. We love helping people. I do a lot of malware cleanup for people. If it's really bad, I'm going to charge you, but if not, we'll talk about it. But the biggest thing is, I love to help. But again, like all of us are, we're really busy. And one way to not get me to help you is to keep bugging me to help you. So, yeah. One thing I don't like about Facebook Messenger is I just get these things over and over and over again. I'm like, dude, I'll get back to you. I'm sorry. So just please understand that we're all busy, but I would love to help you. Anything that I can do, I'm in all the Facebook groups, not all of them, but at least the ones that matter. And I love to share, so I don't hold nothing back, and and I don't judge. So if you screw something up and you contact me, I'll help you fix it, and I won't judge you, but I will teach you.
Perfect. So, well, we'll end it there. Terry, I really appreciate you taking the time. Guys, if you're still watching this, enjoyed this interview, and are looking for future interviews, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. Give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment below or a question. I'm sure Terry and I will swing back through and answer any questions you have. And thanks a lot for watching this episode.
Thank you, guys.